Hey, what's up YouTube? Today I'll be showing you guys how to install the Escort Direct Wire Smart Cord. It comes in two colors. It comes with a blue LED light and a red LED light. This works for all Belltronics and Escort windshield mounted radar detectors. At the time of purchase, it did cost about $29.95 with an additional discount. If you turn the box over, it doesn't have any installation instructions, and it doesn't have a connector that goes to a good ground. You can either use a self-tapping screw, or you could use a bolt to screw it down. I will be using a 2015 GMC Yukon Denali as an example, but this should work for any other vehicles. The tools I'll be using for this installation are a DEWALT bit set, a DEWALT impact driver, electrical tape, and a standard flathead screwdriver, a code reader for any codes that may arise, a trim panel removal tool, zip ties, wire cutters to cut the zip ties, and a test light. Also, I will be using the 3M DURA reclosable fasteners for this installation. It has interlocking strips and is far more superior than your traditional Velcros. I recommend you guys use this for this installation or any other projects that you guys may have. Before you begin the actual installation, take a few minutes to plan your installation. Decide where you are going to install your radar detector. Keep in mind, the higher on the windshield, the better. It will improve its range and enhances its response time. My installation will be high in the windshield and to the left of the rear view mirror. I feel that this is the best location for me where it won't distract my vision. Secondly, decide where you're going to route the harness of the direct wire kit. I ran the harness down along the driver's side pillar, down the dash's left side, through the bottom of the kick panel and into the center console. The trim panels that I removed are the driver's side A-pillar, the driver's side HVAC vent, the driver's side dash fuse block cover, the driver's side kick panel cover and kick panel brace, the driver's side sun visor, the driver's side sun visor tab, and also the center console. So there are plenty of connectors you can use to do your installation. I don't recommend using your sun visor connector since it's a battery positive circuit all the time, meaning that even if your vehicle is off, it's still receiving 12 volts of battery power. The upper center console has some circuits you can use, but if you're using the upper windshield for your installation, you will have the excess wire that will be rolled up between the headliner and the vehicle body, increasing your chances of fraying your harness, causing electrical issues, and introducing possible vibrations and noises into the cabin. You will also have to remove this trim piece to remove the center console. Be careful when lifting up the center console. There's a harness that runs underneath there. Try not to pull too hard on it. When removing the center console, make sure you have removed all the screws. If the console is hard to remove, you may have missed a few screws. It should come off easily. They usually have Phillips head and 8 to 10 millimeter screws securing the center console. The center console has rubber covers to protect the screws from liquids. Be sure to check under the rubber covers for screws. These are the tabs that I was referring to that help secure your center console. Be cautious not to break them. In this next step, we will be using the test light. To find a good ground, use your test light clamp and attach it to a metal surface or a riveted screw. I use a riveted screw located under the steering column. With the vehicle powered on, probe the back of the connector to test for voltage. Once you find a good circuit, power the vehicle off to make sure that the voltage is no longer being provided to that circuit. Once that is established, put the vehicle in accessory mode to make sure that it receives voltage in that mode. For the final step in the planning process, find a connector or harness with an accessory battery positive and ground. For the ground, you can use the ground from the connector or harness, or you can use a metal brace or surface under the dash or the center console. For those installing this in a GM truck, I'm using the X300 connector located in the front part of your center console under the HVAC module. Be mindful that not all GM trucks have this connector. You have to look up your vehicle schematics to see if this connector is part of your vehicle harness. This connector has plenty of accessory battery positive circuits which you can use. The circuit I'll be looking for on this connector is an accessory battery positive circuit powered on when the vehicle is powered on in accessory mode or powered on with the engine running. The purpose behind this is that you don't want the radar detector to remain on when the vehicle is off. This will drain your battery, especially if the vehicle will be sitting for an extended period of time. You can also power off your radar detector but to be on the safe side, it's just better to install it the way I'm going to show you. Looking at the connector, I decided to use circuit 1040 terminal 20, which is a red and white wire. You can use a test light or digital multimeter to check for battery power when the vehicle is on or in accessory mode. Don't probe the wires through the insulators. This will cause issues down the line by corroding your wires and causing high resistance in the circuit. Carefully probe the back of the connector when performing this procedure, since you don't want to damage the terminals and cause poor connection issues. I highly recommend using a terminal toolkit if you can find one that is cheap. Once you have found a good candidate for your installation, you can proceed to the next step, which will be to use a supply tap connector. There are two ways of doing this. You can use the supply tap connector, or you can cut the wire and using a solder and heat shrink, you can splice in the wire that way. The heat shrink provides an adhesive that protects the copper wire from the elements. If you're using the supply tap connector, be sure to add a small amount of dielectric grease to the inside of the tap connector to prevent moisture from corroding the wire. As you can see, I tapped into circuit 1040 using the supply connector. Also, the direct wire harness has an inline fuse. Keep that in mind for future reference in the event that your radar won't power on. To secure the wire to the factory harness, I decided to use zip ties for the following reasons. They are cheap, they can be purchased anywhere for a few dollars. I paid about $3 for a pack of 100. Secondly, they are adjustable. You can install them on the harness before securing them completely, which will allow you to adjust the harness before fully securing the zip ties and cutting them. Also, it cuts so much time from the installation. If I had used electrical tape, it would have taken me several hours, if not days, to complete the installation. I ran the harness from the X300 connector out from under the center console and out the side of the center console, through the kick panel area and out the driver's side kick panel and the side of the dashboard. Again, making sure that the wire isn't rubbing against any metal or plastic surfaces. And also running the direct wire harness parallel with the factory harness. I ran the harness up the driver's side A-pillar and through the headliner. Be sure to run the wire along the side of the airbag or behind the airbag. Never run the wire in front of the airbag. In the event that there is an accident, the wire will interfere with the proper operation of the airbag, causing serious or potentially fatal injuries. Also, don't zip tie the harness to your sunroof drain hoses. It will kink the hoses and cause water issues due to the sunroof drains being restricted. Lastly, I ran the harness parallel to the headliner harness and into the radar detector. This process can be annoying. Make sure every screw is placed back in its proper location. A tip is to keep the screws together with the trim pieces you remove to make sure the screws go back in the right location. I installed the smart cord module by the cluster. I decided that this would be the best location for it since the module can be easily reached, and I used the 3M DURA Velcro to hold the module in place. It makes it easy to remove in the event that the vehicle needs to be serviced. The technician can easily remove it and reinstall it. The final step is testing. Make sure everything is operating normally. Test operation of the cigarette lighter, the HVAC module, USB ports, and also the radar detector. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and smash the like button. Leave a comment on how I can make my videos better.